So I'm all done with my tissue paper background. Everything is glued down flat. And now I'm ready to get my black square piece of paper. Now this is the piece of paper that we are going to be drawing and cutting out our shapes from. All right, so we're going to draw along each edge or each side of that square, and then we're going to cut those out. The first thing that we need to do before we do any drawing or cutting is place it on the paper. We're going to place it in the center of the paper, not in the corners, not askew like that. We're going to make sure that it is all lined up and looks as in the center as you can possibly get it. Now I'm going to take my pencil, make sure that this is a pencil, not a marker, not a colored pencil, just a regular number 2 pencil that you can erase, and you are going to trace around each of the corners. Don't trace along all the sides, just trace the corners like I did here. And that makes it so that when we lift up our square, because we're going to be doing that a lot to cut out shapes and stuff, we will always be able to know where our square will get put down when we need to glue things. And you'll see what I mean more as I start drawing and cutting and gluing things here. All right, so now I set aside my background paper and I got my sketchbook back out because it will be very helpful to reference that as you draw on your black square. So I'm taking my pencil. It is very important that this is a regular pencil. Do not use a white colored pencil or a white crayon because that you're not going to be able to erase those lines later on. And we want to have nice, good contrast between the black and the white. So just make sure that you are using a regular pencil. Now I'm just drawing my design as I did it in my sketch. If I want to change up some aspects of it like I'm doing here, I can do that. That's no big deal. You might find that as you actually put your design on that black square, you're going to have to adjust as you go. And that's just part of the process. All right, and there is a better view of that. You might have to move around, try to catch the light as you work on this because the pencil might be a little bit hard to see. And I'm just going to keep drawing my design and I will come back to you when I'm done. It'll all be in fast forward. So you can see that I started to sort of adjust my design as I went. I changed the positioning of that flower and the clouds, and I also decided that I didn't draw my butterfly as big as I would have liked because I really want to take up as much space as possible, right? So I just erased it and I'm redrawing it. And then here I just looked at my design a little bit more and I decided that I wanted to add some longer leaves or leaf shapes coming up from the edges farther into the center of my paper to, again, just to fill up the space more. You might have to do this too. You might have to reevaluate and adjust your design as you work because it might end up looking different when you actually draw it on your black square. So I'm just going to finish doing that and then I will come back to you when I'm ready to start cutting. Okay, so it is all drawn on my paper and I brought my background paper back because I'm going to need it again for this next step here. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to start cutting along those lines that I drew. I'm going to make sure that I'm only cutting along the drawn lines. I'm not going to go in and try to add more details with my scissors or cut out anything extra. I'm just cutting along those lines. And that is going to just help us keep it as simple as possible. All right, so I'm turning my paper as I go. My non-dominant hand is helping me turn that paper while my scissor hand stays mostly as still as I can possibly get it. You can turn your scissors, of course, if you need to, but this just helps you get a more controlled cut with your scissors, so try and practice those techniques as you go as well. Now I am finished cutting out that tree. I'm going to go ahead and take my square and I'm going to line up the corners with those corners that I traced with my pencil. And I'm going to put that tree cut out there where I cut it out from, and I'm going to flip it over so that it reflects, all right? And that is going to make that nice mirror image right there. Now I'm going to cut out this double cut here, which was the little hole in my tree trunk. And make sure that you're keeping track of all these little pieces as best as you can. It's really important to glue down one piece at a time. So if I cut out my tree, I'm going to put down my square, line everything up as best as possible, and I'm going to work on gluing down the tree and the hole in the tree, those cutout shapes, before I move on to cutting the other shapes. Because if you do that, you'll end up with a bunch of little pieces everywhere, and it's going to be really hard to keep track of everything. So I'm going to get my glue now, making sure everything is lined up, of course, and I'm getting my glue and gluing the back of my tree. I'm using glitter glue only because I did this at home and I ran out of the glue in my glue stick, and this was the only glue that I had. You are going to use a glue stick for this, all right? Do not do what I'm doing here. Don't use glitter glue. Do not use liquid glue for this. Use a glue stick, please. I'm only using this because it's all that I had. All right, and now I'm going to line up all my edges and just pat that down gently to make sure that it is stuck in place. And I'm going to do the same with my half circle shape there as well. You got to be really careful again with those tiny shapes. And I also want to make sure that I don't have any edges sticking off. So like if some of those ends of my branches were coming off the paper, I would say just go back in, glue those down really well so that you have a nice flat image. So I'm just adding some more glue there. I'm going to keep working, and it's going to go in fast forward from now. I'm just going to keep working. I'm cutting out one shape at a time, and then I'm putting down my square, lining up those corners and edges again with my pencil lines, and I'm going to flip over the shape so that it reflects and glue down the cutout shapes. I'm not gluing down my black square until the very end. This is so that you can get